scheduled, resulting in an invalid code error for some users. We, Park Mobile, sincerely apologise for this inconvenience. Affected users can contact Park Mobile directly now for assistance. A couple of pieces of good news on that. One, Park Mobile should have a technical resolution in the very near future. As of 5 p.m. tonight, their tech folks were reviewing the code and trying to hunt down the bug. In the meantime, there is a workaround which we've posted on the video tutorial on the city's webpage under holiday parking. Two, there were no parking citations written in metered commercial parking zones where folks were expecting to park free. Three, the first 2 hours of any paid parking session in the metered areas since Black Friday will be refunded through Park Mobile to the payment method used. We again do apologise and hope that everyone has a very happy holiday season and that they remember to shop local and shop downtown, and please take advantage of the free parking. We apologise for the technicalities. Speaking of which, reminder that Midnight Madness will take place on December 7th, 14th and the 21st. Annapolis has been named by MSN, Explore.com and Travel and Leisure as one of the best Christmas cities during the holidays. On the 14th, we'll have our Mayor's and Council open house here at City Hall. Please stop by for refreshments before heading out to Midnight Madness. If you'd like, bring an unwrapped toy for the Annapolis Fire Department's Santa Run toy drive. The Eastport Yacht Lights Parade will be on December 7th, which is always amazing. December 10th will be the annual lighting of the downtown menorah. On December 16th, we've got 2 races that will go into downtown. For the early risers, we'll have the Naptown Half Marathon, which will include rolling road closures between Navy Stadium and downtown. The other is the Downtown Santa Run, where brave and immodest people can don a Speedo or a bikini and run down Main Street. This is a very Annapolis thing. Get out your budgie smugglers. As many of you know, members of the council, Maryland Planning Secretary Rebecca Flora and Anne Arundel County Transportation and Planning Officer Tanya Asman, Town Transportation Director Marcus Moore, and DPW Director Burr Vogel took a 5-day trip to the Netherlands just before Thanksgiving. There is an Asian proverb, it is better to travel 10,000 miles than to read 10,000 books. And this certainly applies to what we saw and learned from our Dutch counterparts. The trip was transformative for every person. Seeing what the Dutch have done to prepare their infrastructure, not for the next 100 years, but for the next 1,000 years, is inspiring and has made us rethink how we will go about resiliency and transportation planning. For me personally, it has helped me recognise that Annapolis has a significant role to play in being a leader for not just Maryland, but for coastal communities on both coasts of America. We learned that we have to be forward-thinking about mobility, public transportation, and networks. If you build out a network of safe cycling infrastructure, you can work towards reducing the carbon footprint of the entire community. This is a serious commitment, and it's a commitment that I know Secretary Flora is excited to share at a state level. Throughout our time, we didn't use a car or a taxi or an Uber. We biked, we took trains, and we used trams. And we biked in the rain, and we were all happy to do it because they had the safe infrastructure in place. We look forward to sharing more about the trip and what we learned, taking a deep dive into each stop and each presentation at a work session in the new year. In the meantime, we prepared a short video of the first 2 days for our trip with more to come. So let's roll that. A couple of minutes there. I haven't seen this yet. Right, thank you. Next, I'd like to congratulate Jody Dickinson and her team in the finance department. Earlier this month, we got word that Annapolis received the Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement for Excellence. Thank you. This is the highest form of recognition in governmental accounting and financial reporting, and earning this award represents a significant accomplishment by a government and its management. Congratulations, Director Dickinson and your team. One more round of applause. Lastly, we have one more meeting in December, on December 11th, before the end of the year. Before that meeting, one of the great college sports rivalries will take place, the annual Army versus Navy game in Philadelphia. So before I sign off on the Mayor's remarks tonight, I want to send a message to the team and also to my friend Maryland Governor Wes Moore, a combat veteran who served in the Army's 82nd Airborne Division. And that message is, go Navy, beat Army. Thank you, Governor. And Mr. City Attorney, next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item was on the agenda is reports by committee.
Alderman O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Transportation Committee had a joint meeting with Finance Committee on November the 8th, where we talked about the No Hillman parking garage, the agreements, and a lot of information came out of that, and there's going to be a follow-up meeting to that after the new year. The next Transportation Committee meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, December 13th at 4 o'clock here in Council Chambers.
Thank you. Alderman Tierney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Finance Committee meeting was November 8th, and as Alderwoman O'Neill said, it was a joint meeting with the Transportation Committee. At our meeting, though, we did approve some legislation, or not approve, but we recommended favorably R47-23, which is on tonight's agenda, the Public Kayak Rack Pilot Program. We postponed action on supplemental appropriation 12-23. And I want to add that I really appreciate my colleagues' questions at the joint meeting with Premium, specifically by Alderman Savage and Alderwoman Pindle Charles and Alderwoman O'Neill. The meeting went fairly well, and as Alderwoman O'Neill said, we will meet again. And then at the end, we did have an update by our amazing Finance Director, Jody Dickinson. Next meeting is Wednesday, December 6th at 10:30 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Pindell Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Then Alderwoman Finlayson after that. Is that okay? Yeah, thank you.
This is something I should have done several months ago, but I'm going to read a note of thanks from a well-known Ward 1 resident back in June. I'm a downtown Annapolis resident, have lived in town for nearly 55 years. During the power outage on yesterday, which was June 1st, I had to drive through town for a meeting and parole, and at every major intersection, I witnessed our police officers doing a terrific job. They were calm and courteous, as so many drivers peppered them with questions about the incident. It really made me proud to see them out there. They were working hard to keep the traffic flowing while still trying to respond to all questions. How they got to all these intersections so quickly, I may never know, but they deserve heaps of praise for helping to make yesterday's power crisis a safer day for all of us. Thank you to you and to all of your officers, to Chief Jackson, thank you so very much. The next meeting of the Public Safety Standing Committee is scheduled for Monday, December the 4th at 4 p.m. in City Council chambers. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Finlayson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Rules and City Government Committee will meet on Friday, December the 1st at 3 o'clock here in council chambers. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Schandelmeyer, or just smoke my down?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Economic Matters will be meeting on Wednesday, December 6th at 6:30 p.m.
Thank you. Alderman Gay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Housing Human Welfare Committee will be meeting Monday, December the 5th at 6:30 p.m. I believe we will have representatives from Penrose and Fairstead at the meeting to discuss some of the housing condition complaints we've received. And we also will be reviewing our live link survey. And so that'll be our meeting.
Thank you. Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Environmental Matters will be meeting this Thursday. And after spending our last meeting talking about the comp plan, we're going to focus on the legislation. So we'll be talking about O2823, which is city noise prohibitions and enforcement. The associated fine resolution for that, as well as O3423 street and park hours. Besides that, we'll be getting an update on resilience and sustainability, and also hopefully an update on development projects.
Thank you. Right, Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. Next item on the agenda is comments by the general public.
Okay, so first person signed up to speak is Sandra Elwood. Please come forward.
Hello,
Hey.
can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
I came here tonight because
Just state your address, please, Sandra.
my name is Sandra Elwood. Hello, hi. Sandra Elwood, I'm familiar with all of you, as you know, and I'm at 1420 Catlin Place in the city of Annapolis.
Thank you.
I came here tonight because, as you all got from my emails, I'm extremely dissatisfied with the amount of money that was spent on this recent trip to the Netherlands and the excess of it in such a small city with such a small population of people. In this society with this many methods to educate and train yourselves on resiliency planning, it seems egregiously an overreach to send this many members of the city council and city department heads all together at one time, when there were many other methods by which you could have planned and learned about resiliency planning, including a conference in Arlington, Virginia, the very same week on the same topic. To assert that the only method by which you would be able to educate yourselves on this topic is to travel to the Netherlands is just completely non-correct. It's just a lie, and you all know that. I think that even if I didn't think it was the best use of money, that I could concede that maybe some members could have attended such a meeting and learned and brought that back to the city in a different method. And, you know, considering that the mayor is, in fact, you know, you're the CEO of the city, and I may not always like that, as you're well aware, but you probably would have been a person that would have needed to go on a trip like that. And perhaps your city manager would have been able to attend, and Ms. Guild, and maybe one member of the city council to come back and bring that information and share that. You hired and paid for a videographer. At no point is there not a method by hiring a person to video all of your meetings that you could not have brought that information back, reduced the spend by a pretty large amount on this trip. And the optic of it is just terrible. It's a terrible optic to be seen biking around the Netherlands in Europe while you have public safety crises that you're telling city residents that you can't pay for. How do you line those two things up with a straight face? How do you tell us that you don't have money for the things that matter more to the citizens here, but you have money to go on a European holiday with every department head and half the city council and yourself? It just looks bad. It looks terrible. Why did you not take a poll on who was most equipped from background and educational experience to take the best notes and the best information back to the council? Alderman Savage went on that trip, and I know from his background, he probably was the best person on the council from background and education to attend that meeting in person and bring that information back to his colleagues. And for that matter, the city manager has much experience and no reason why he can't take adept notes and bring that back to his people on his staff. It's just egregious that it went that far and that the echo chamber and the rot exist in such a degree in City Hall that not one of you checked yourself to say, maybe this is a little bit too much. Maybe this is excessive. Not one of you. It's just really disappointing. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Janet Norman is next up.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. I'm Janet Norman, your current chair of the Annapolis City Appointed Education Commission. I'm thankful to know you all, as I've been on the Education Commission for 11 years and have served as the Annapolis High PTA president during 20 to 21, and with Karma O'Neill as our PTSA secretary. I'm going to pull a maneuver from our award-winning Naval Junior ROTC leader, Commander Eddie Lassane. As he says, bottom line up front, we need you all to speak up to our school superintendent on budget development before December 15th. Our superintendent, Dr. Bedell, will present his proposed budget to the Board of Ed on the eve of December 20th, in person or streamed on our AACPS YouTube channel. In our vast school system of 85,000 plus students, where will the needs of Annapolis cluster students be heard? Many of our Annapolis families are working multiple jobs just to pay for the expensive rent and to feed their families. They don't have the luxury to spend time at city council meetings or AACPS meetings. That's where we need you to speak up for them as their elected representatives. I'm asking you to do so a week prior to the December 20th presentation of the budget to the Board of Ed. You can do so by emailing superintendent@aacps.org and CCing our commission, Annapolis Education Commission @gmail.com. And anybody listening at home, we also encourage you to please submit the needs for the superintendent to include in the budget. Annapolis High PTSA has for several years in a row written the superintendent and board to include funding for an additional social worker at Annapolis High. In our high school of nearly 2,200 students, there is one existing social worker with an overwhelming caseload. 3 additional social worker positions were funded in last year's budget, and those 3 were split among 8 other schools not within the Annapolis cluster. I've heard Dr. Bedell say at public events that because his child goes to middle school here and will be going to Annapolis High, he would or will receive criticism for potentially favoring Annapolis High. This is where you all provide the justification needed to attend to the staffing support needs of our students, which you've heard from your constituents. The concept of restorative justice is a great one, but as our social worker explained to the Education Commission, it's very time-consuming on the part of the social worker and the guidance counselors who have to conduct it with the students who are in conflict. Currently, our high school guidance counselors have a caseload of approximately 308 students per counselor to arrange all the scheduling of their classes, keep them on track for their coursework. I know in the case of me, our social worker, our guidance counselor was emailing me weekly to tell me how far behind my son was in his self-paced AP course he was taking. It's just a boatload, and I don't know how they do it, but with the community ambassadors, adequate staff to monitor the hallways and exits that we've had issues with, caring adults to listen to the problems and frustrations our students are going through. We need more trained staff. Please put on your calendars also January 11th at 6 p.m. at the Riva Road Board of Ed Conference Room, the public testimony to the Board of Ed on how to amend the superintendent's proposed budget with what the board decides. Here again, we need you to speak up, as prior city council members have done. I don't have all the answers. The commission doesn't have all the answers. You don't have all the answers. But together with our PTA leaders at every level and our nonprofit partners within the city, we have better answers. So please keep us involved. Please keep speaking up for our students when our parents are not able to. And let's work together to get better outcomes for our future residents and the heart of our city, our youth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Janet. Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to ask, have you sent that to us in writing yet?
No, it's hot off the press of my brain.
Please do that.
Yes.
And I'll just say, personally, I'm surprised to hear there's one social worker for that many students, because my understanding is a state social worker has about 13 clients per person. So
yes. So at Bates and Annapolis Middle, at Annapolis Middle, we have 3 social workers, and the additional social worker can help develop projects like they're going to do on the 29th of this Sounds of Silence mental health learning process for the parent community and stuff like that. All that caseload goes up into Annapolis High, where they had multiple social workers at the middle school level. All those students go up to 4 grades within Annapolis High, and 1 overwhelmed social worker is supposed to do restorative justice and things. And I know from having raised teenagers that, I've bought sheets of sheetrock in fist-sized sizes, because it's frustrating being a teenager and things happen and you need to work out conflict. So we need the staffing to do so.
Thank you, Janet.
Thank you.
No one else has signed up to speak. Who else would like to come forward, please?
Hello, my name is George Gallagher. I live at 1212 Barbud Lane. Tonight I'm here to speak about the Annapolis Comprehensive Plan 2040, particularly page 303, because it is probably the most egregious and oppressive part of the plan. It recommends that the city reduce its carbon footprint through comprehensive approach that includes emission reductions, energy generation, carbon sequestration, which I don't know how the city could possibly do that, carbon offsets, and involved in other strategies. The plan is to achieve a 60% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2031 and net zero emissions by 2045. This will be done by a survey of gas emissions from the city government in 2024 and the communities by 2025. I am voicing my strong opposition to this ideological attack on the residents of Annapolis with these expensive and unnecessary anti-CO2 goals. This Smart City World Economic Forum Stantec planning being forced on Annapolis is unacceptable. Oh, by the way, in the past few weeks, major changes to governments of the Netherlands and New Zealand happened because the people rejected the same type of authoritarian policies contained in Annapolis Plan 2040. The Orwellian demonization of a life-giving gas in our atmosphere must stop. CO2 is not a pollutant. CO2 is a trace gas. It's 0.4% in our atmosphere that is essential to life on Earth. No CO2, no plants, no animals, no humans. All human activity on this Earth only produces 3% of the CO2 of the 0.4% in the atmosphere. So of 400 parts per million that's in our atmosphere, all human activity, coal burning in China, is only 12 parts per million. 12 over a million, that's basically zero. Plants require a minimum of 150 parts per million to survive. If you go below 150 parts per million, plants die. The average outdoor amount of CO2 right now is 400%. To reduce carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is an anti-life, non-science fraud that will only facilitate the increase in poverty and starvation. A quote from Professor John Raymond Christie: "Suppose the United States closed everything, ceased to exist, no people, no cars, no industry, no utilities. Current climate models tell us the result of this scenario in 50 years might be 1/100th of 1 degree in reduction of global temperature. And it basically is not attributable to any regulation that governments could pass." Who is John Christie? He's a climate scientist who was on the International Panel for Climate Change, involved in satellite remote sensing of global climate temperatures and climate change. The bottom line is solar activity and planetary motion changes climate. That's why the Earth experiences cyclical ice ages and warming periods. CO2 levels in the atmosphere are a lagging indicator of solar activity. The actions planned in the page 303 of this plan are unnecessary and a complete waste of taxpayer money. These actions should not be performed nor included in the final plan. The resources and money that have been allocated to this useless resiliency
Thank you,
and
George.
sustainability agenda are better spent to be applied to our public safety crisis. We have a public safety crisis. We don't have a CO2 crisis. We have shootings and stabbings. There was a shooting,
Judge.
shots fired, and a stabbing while you guys were in the Netherlands. Thank you.
Thank you. Please come forward. Thank you.
Are you hearing testimony on O2223, or should I wait? Wait, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to come forward? Please.
Good evening. My name is Jim Conlon. I live at 413 Chesapeake Avenue, Annapolis, Maryland. I'm here tonight to announce to the public that the Alcohol Beverage Control Board has been in non-compliance with the Maryland Open Meeting Act. Alderman Pindell Charles, several meetings ago, you mentioned your displeasure with the Alcohol Board. Well, I took action. I filed a complaint. It was determined by the Compliance Board that our control board was not in compliance with the law. Now I ask, what is this council going to do about this? There are some administrative actions that can be taken, and one is that the board announces their violation, and second, they sign an acknowledgement of breaking the law. However, the city council has the ability to take action against the members of this board. They cannot have unfettered authority. I am tired. I blame this whole incident on our Office of Law, who provides legal counsel to our committees, to our commissions, to our boards. We rely on them to tell them how to do the job right. Obviously, someone failed here. Now, who is going to take liability? Who is going to be held accountable for what went wrong? Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to come forward and speak?
My name is Edilene Barros, and I live in 12 Tel Babod Lane. So I'm not here to talk about the Netherlands trip, because I come from Belgium, Brazil, Belgium, and I know that any deal with European right now, it's a red flag. But I'm here to talk about one experience that I had in my home as a host of Airbnb. So this summer, I have a young guy from the Navy come to my house, and he had the worst nightmare he could ever experiment with this new deal with a RV car, EV car, electrical car. And that was, for me, a big surprise, because I've been heard about how bad it is, this car, and I was not sure about that until this young guy come from all the way from California to Annapolis. He had a terrible nightmare with this car. So he bought a car. He was very socialist convinced. Now I think he changed his mind about that after that horrible experience. So that car was a horrible travel for him. He has to stop every few hours. Took him days to come to Annapolis. He was supposed to be in my house in Friday, whatever, and then he missed 2 nights, and I was a little concerned, and I started to contact him and say, I'm in trouble, and give him a week travel. He was stopping every few hours, taking hours to charge that car, and on top of that, he has to spend 2 extra nights in a hotel. And this poor guy, he used to travel to from California to Annapolis a couple of times, and then he never imagined that his life would become a nightmare since he bought that EV car, electrical car. So I'm just here as a witness of this story, because it affected him. He lost 2 days in my house. He has to expend extra days in hotel because of the car. And then he got in Annapolis, he has to delay his job because it's supposed to start on Monday because of the car he could not be able to do. So be aware, anybody in Annapolis, about this EV car, electrical car, could be your worst nightmare. Thank you.
Thank you. Would else like to come forward? Okay, I declare comments by the general public. Oh, come forward, please. I saw that. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Suzanne Duffy, and I live at 17 King Court. I just wanted to kind of piggyback onto what George was talking about with this Agenda 2040, I believe you're calling it. There's so many different agendas out there. I just want to recommend a book by a woman by the name of Rosa Koire. She wrote her book in 2011, over 20 years ago, exposing this whole green agenda. The book is called Behind the Green Mask. It's a hard book to acquire, but you can also watch for free her different lectures, and there's lots of information that she provided. I think as time goes on, more and more of us are going to want to speak out against these agendas. Rosa Koire, Behind the Green Mask. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to come forward? I declare comments by the general public closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is business and miscellaneous, beginning with fund transfers FT 424.
Is there a motion to adopt FT 4-24?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, the next item on the agenda is public hearing, beginning with ordinance O-2223, business license, taxes and regulation, creation of an art establishment beer and wine license.
Please come forward. I have Alex Pline signed up to speak first on this.
Alex Pline, 305 Monterey Avenue, Annapolis. I'm come tonight to speak in my role as the chair of the Planning Commission. So I just want to take a couple minutes to expand on the recommendation that we made on this piece of legislation. As you, I'm sure, saw in our recommendation, we wholeheartedly endorse the idea. We think that the enabling legislation is good because arts establishments generally don't have the resources to be chasing down a license for every particular event they might have. So we think this is a good thing. As you know, generally enabling state legislation is generally very broad, allowing for municipalities to tailor things to their own context. So, I think we need to not just copy exactly what's in the state legislation. And we think that, as we said, there need to be some guardrails put on this because, there's going to be some incentives and frankly temptations to feature alcohol sales at events that, may stray a bit from the intent of the legislation to make it easier to, have alcohol service when you have a special event or an opening or something like that. The example we used is, what's to stop sort of the coffee shop in Maryland Hall from becoming a bar, because there's basically things always happening at Maryland Hall. So you just need to have some sort of guardrails on that. And, in kind of an extreme example might be restaurants that have to serve food to serve alcohol. You show up at the bar and they put a plate of plastic food in front of you. I mean, that's kind of an absurd example, but we just want to make sure that the legislation stays according to the intent, and that ultimately when you try to come up with whatever rules you might do with this legislation, we think there needs to be a lot of input from the people who would be affected by it. Galleries, Maryland Hall, other performance venues. So, we didn't, in our recommendation, we didn't give any suggestions necessarily of changes to the legislation, because we think that really needs to be done in concert with the people that are going to get these kind of licenses. And that will be, the best way to get the right set of rules that works for as many people as possible. So, thanks.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you. Appreciate that. Anybody else want to come forward and speak on O-22-23?
Thank you. My name is John Purnell. I'm a resident of 5 Park Place, Unit 408. Hi, Ellie. And I come as the Vice President of Colonial Players and also a volunteer there. And I'm also a volunteer at the Summer Garden Theater. And I've talked with them extensively, and they've said it's okay for my comments to represent their interests as well. So I'll be speaking on behalf of both of those. I want to first say that I think we support this legislation in the sense that it's intended to make post-pandemic life for theaters better and more profitable and more sustainable. If that's the case, we're totally behind it. We just have some suggested improvements. And those begin with, we think that Ordinance O-223 isn't clearly delineated from other ordinances, specifically O-4617 and R-3117, which were enacted in 2017. Prior to the state of Maryland's passage of Bill 352 and Bill 452. This is going to create confusion with the arts community and in the application of these laws for the city, and we believe that the city council should harmonize these before bringing them into law. For example, it should be a 2-tiered license with a $100 annual license fee, that's consistent with the old legislation, for venues with 200 seats or less, and $1,000 for those that have greater than 200 seats in accordance with the newly proposed legislation. We should have specific times and events that the old legislation has, and I think talking about guide rails, that's a good example of one that should be in the new legislation. The third is that requirements for event-specific applications should be removed. This whole get a license for every single performance that you're doing gets a little out of hand, and they should be annualized. We like that in the new legislation. The language regarding membership and clubs, and I refer you back to the old legislation, which basically derived theaters from clubs, be deleted or strengthened or clarified, because it really isn't necessary now that the state has defined arts establishment. And that's now consistent with Maryland law. My second point is that we believe that these ordinances should be equitably administered, and they aren't today under Maryland law and not purpose-built for a single organization. And for example, the Annapolis Clerk's Office can no longer deny permit applications for qualifying arts organizations on the basis that that ordinance was intended for only one venue. And we believe, lastly, that the ordinance should clarify the responsibility of the entities with regards to the alcohol use tax and to the certification of servers. I thank you very much for your time and would be happy to entertain any questions.
Appreciate that. Thank you for your comments. Thank you.
No problem. And I did send
hang on, we do have a question. Alderman Arnett.
Your suggestions sounded interesting, but you went through them so quickly. Do you have them written down? And can you
I do, in fact. I've sent them to Alderman Tierney. I could send her an edited version because I realized it could be cleaned up, and we'll do so if that's all right with you, Alderwoman. Sure. But yeah, we think they're, I'm glad you want to read them, and we'd be happy to send a revised version.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Anyone else like to come forward on O22-23? Thank you. I declare the public hearing closed on O-22-23. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is legislative action on first readers, beginning with Resolution R5623, FY 2024 Fine Schedule Update, Abandoned Vehicle.
Is there a motion to adopt R-56-23?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Let's refer that to the Finance Committee. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is R5823, Annual Meeting and Tourism Industry Reception.
All right. Is there a motion to adopt R-5823 on first reader?
So moved.
Is there a second? Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is legislative actions on second reader, beginning with Ordinance O2323, Alcoholic Beverages Code Technical Corrections.
Is there a motion to adopt O-23-23 on second reader?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt O-23-23 on third reader?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Buckley?
Aye.
Alderwoman O'Neill? Aye. Alderwoman Kendall Charles?
Aye.
Alderwoman Finlayson? Alderman Shonda Meyer?
Aye.
Alderman Gay?
Aye.
Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye. Ooh, I'm last.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is Resolution R3823, FY 2024 Annual Fees Schedule, Art Establishment Liquor License Fee.
Is there a motion to adopt R-38-23 on second reader?
So moved.
You get a second? Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll. Oh, sorry, Alderman Arnett, apologize.
Are these fees for the ordinance that we just had on public hearing? The alcoholic beverages in art establishments?
I would
Yes.
have to.
Yeah.
So shouldn't we pass the ordinance before we establish the fees?
Think there are.
Can we have maybe can you help us with that? Is that true, that the resolution and the ordinance go hand in hand? City Attorney?
Mr. City Attorney, it's just a resolution.
You can do either.
Okay.
The resolution establishes the fees once the bill passes.
And if the bill doesn't pass, but the resolution does?
Well,
it's just, I don't really care, but it does seem like before we vote in fees, we ought to vote in the vehicle to which the fees apply.
Alderman Savage?
I tend to agree. My question is for this law office. There's a motion on the floor. What's the most expedient way to get this postponed and not defeated?
Well, you can link them together. You can postpone by amending this so that the fee changes occur once the bill passes.
Okay, should we do that now? Because I think there's a motion on the floor for,
There's a motion second. You can do an amendment to link this with the bill passage.
well, can I make a motion then to postpone until,
Well, you could make a motion.
basically follow the same timeline as
You could-
22, 23?
You could make a motion to amend it and say if it doesn't pass,
Motion to amend, once the bill passes, this will take effect.
Well, but I think one of the questions raised, though, was that the fees may need to be reconsidered to make sure they're compliant with past legislation and with the interests and concerns that were raised. So personally, I'd be more in favor of just postponing action until the next meeting, or at least for 2 meetings. So until January?
Yeah, because
Second.
it has to go to committee.
and just going to go around the room and just get everybody. Alderman O'Neill?
I was just going to agree that with some of the public testimony that was brought up, questioning the fees and possibly making it a 2-tiered system, that I would be in favor of postponing decision on it.
Alderman Tierney, and then Alderman Arnett.
Alderman Arnett was before me.
I agree with Alderwoman O'Neill. I heard some interesting proposed changes, and it was different levels of fees, which does seem like it would change this resolution.
Not yet, but I'm sure Alderman Savage will. Let's just get to Alderman Tierney, and then you want to
Yeah.
move it to postpone it? Yeah.
Right, I just want, thank you, Mr. Mayor, I just want to say that the respective ordinance needs obviously some clarification of the existing licenses that we have. There is obviously some confusion. This is introducing a new license, and we do have existing licenses, Class C, for what I believe the public was asking for. So it warrants a lot of discussion, so yes, I think they should go hand in hand at this point.
You need a motion to, you have to withdraw the motion on the floor. So there has to be a subsidiary motion to table.
Okay, can we get a motion to withdraw what's on the floor, please?
Or motion to table would be better.
Table, sorry.
I move to table.
Can I
Yeah.
interrupt for a second? Okay, a motion to postpone trumps the second reader with a second, because we didn't finish the vote. So
Okay.
if you get a second for your postponement, you need to postpone until a date certain.
Second.
But I just want to say for clarity purposes, it was just on public hearing, so it has to go to the committees. So it may need more than one meeting to be
Oh,
postponed.
no.
It went to public and it got referred back to planning. So it already went to committees.
Okay. So it can be postponed.
On the floor, call the question, postpone, and pick the date.
Right. So it can be postponed until the next meeting.
Okay, got a motion to postpone, and we got a second from Alderman Arnett. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is Resolution R4723, Public Kayak Rack Pilot Program.
Is there a motion to adopt R47-23 on second reader?
So moved.
Second.
I have a question.
Thank you. I think we got some, we've got an amendment coming through. Is that right, Alderman Tierney, or?
Well, my little background, this was introduced as an ordinance because it is a pilot. It was, yes, it's similar to what we did for outside dining. We don't make a law about it until we know what we're doing. So this is, so I resubmitted it as a resolution. So in fact, my amendment is a replace bill, which is a resolution. So instead of withdrawing the, and correct me if I'm right, Ms. Ruder, but, so instead of, right, that's it. It's just, it's the substitute amendment.
So you're moving the amendment now?
Yeah, I moved.
Yeah.
I move Amendment 1.
Okay, I need a second. Then we need some discussion. Alderman Gay had his hand up first.
Thank you. I'm concerned with the direction of the legislation. I signed on as a co-sponsor, believing that this was to, as it states in the resolution, promoting outdoor recreational activities on his waterway and providing opportunities for residents to engage in healthy and enjoyable water activities. This seems that a very select few group or community that already probably is well off is about to get a paddle, or they changed the terminology. It's not a kayak rack. I think it is now changed to paddle craft rack, and pay, a small fee, relatively small for some of our residents. So how is this promoting or boosting the recreational activities? This just seems as if we are providing Ward 1 with a paddlecraft rack where residents can pay to store their paddlecraft.
Do you want me to respond? Well, I didn't know if we had to go to your amendment first, but let me explain. This is a little bit weird because we're supposed to be water access friendly, and what this resolution does is does not limit it to any ward. It was initiated by some residents on a street because they had a street and park and they wanted to put their kayaks. The harbor master has a very cautionary staff report, and in that staff report, she advised against putting one at that location at the end of Prince George Street because it was unsafe. She then followed through with about a half a dozen other locations. So it could be anywhere. The kind of concerning thing is, though, as Alderman Gay suggests, this should be equitable and cost neutral, I guess, that the people will, have to pay, and that if this is a successful program, it would pay for itself. But some of the staff supervision that she's estimating and the cost of the rack itself just seems. I'm getting the feeling from the staff report that this is not something that the harbor master is crazy about. I mean, let me be honest, and we are fighting for water access. People have kayaks. I wanted to find a mechanism for this to work instead of random kayaks. This is a safe way to do it, if you will. But yeah, so, and the harbor master is, we're going to listen to the harbor master, but it sounds like this is something that she doesn't seem to want.
No, not yet. But, yeah, sorry. Thank you.
No.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay. Alderman Savage and Alderman Arnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just to clarify, I mean, this is just a pilot program. This rack, wherever it goes, is going to be open to everybody. Even county residents can pay to store their boat here. It's not a boat share program. My understanding, it's not like they're not going to be free boats. This is where people can essentially pay the harbor master, pay the city to store their boat there next to the water.
So again, it is not promoting. It's not promoting recreation.
He has the floor, so you can't just.
So it is promoting. How is it not promoting recreational? You're promoting the ability for people to store their boat and have easily accessible to the water. Because right now, there are no public boat racks. If you have, my community doesn't have any, a lot of the communities don't have them. You only find boat racks for small craft at the private apartment buildings, the private condos. There is no place, unless you have storage at your house or your apartment, which a lot of people don't have. This would allow people who don't have storage at their home to store this on the waterfront. And so, this is just a trial to see if we want to expand it in the future, to see if we can open up more racks elsewhere, because we need to get an idea of what kind of cost and time it's going to be to staff who's going to be administering this to see if we want to expand it. But I think this is completely in line with our access goals, because otherwise, without this, I mean, and I understand the harbor master's concern as far as safety, as far as the one of the proposed locations, but you know, she was concerned about it with some of the large boats. But on the other hand, I also think we need to be willing to give these things a try, because otherwise our parts of our waterway are going to be dominated by boats, sailboats, frankly. And I think we need to get away from a place where the only people who can use the water are those who have powerboats or sailboats. We need to get, just like with cycling, we need to get people used to the idea of small crafts, small boats in the water. And so let's find out if this is going to work, if we need to do more education to help improve safety. But I'd say let's go for it. Thank you for leading on this.
Thank you. So Alderman Annette and then Alderman Gay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I get it. It's a pilot program. But it does feel to me, this feels a lot like a hammer in search of nails. I'm trying to figure out what the pilot program is. What are we measuring? What are the measures of success? Who makes that determination? This reads very much like this is going to be done by the city manager and the harbor master. I'd kind of like to have a role in this, particularly since I believe I have the most water access points in the city. So that's why I'm assuming, by the way, we're now talking about the substitute resolution, not the original. So I'm reading it, these three points. The harbor master is going to promulgate rules. I don't think we promulgate rules until we've finished the pilot test. So I would think that the harbor master would be proposing to the city manager potential rules, not promulgating rules. So I have some quibbles with the language here. And then it says the city shall establish a permitting process. That reads to me very much like we're finished with the pilot and we're doing this. And so if this is a pilot program, let's write it like it's really a pilot, really a test, and let's put some criteria about what it is we're testing. I can tell you, I got a lot of input from commercial enterprises from my ward that are concerned about the government competing with their commercial interests. I don't know whether that's valid or not, but I have to listen to it. It's constituents. So I really wish we could write this more like it is a pilot program. I have some concerns with the sites suggested by the harbor master as alternatives to the Prince George's Street Inn. I think they're not appropriate, but that would be a good thing to test in a pilot test, putting these racks at the end of 2nd Street, right by the Maritime Museum, a very, very congested area. And by the way, I don't know how many of my colleagues understand these street-in parks are the end of a street. They're the width of the street. They're 6 or 8 feet deep. I don't know how much room for how many racks there are on these, but I would suspect there's different kinds of street-in parks throughout the city, and that the pilot test would be something that could evaluate that. Maybe this is good for some places, not others. So I'm sorry, but the resolution doesn't really read like a pilot test. It reads like promulgating the rules and doing as though this were fait accompli. So fine, by all means, I was hammered at lunchtime by the mayor and my good colleague from Ward 7, do a pilot test, but let's really do a pilot test. And let's figure out what it is we're testing, and let's have some parameters. And then there are 4 waterside alderpersons that kind of think we might be involved in how this test is conducted, and that's why I propose this amendment 2, which is, if you're going to do this, at least involve the alderpersons of the wards that are affected. So I really do think this language is not good language in the proposed thing. It doesn't really read like it's a test. It doesn't set out what's being pilot tested, and it doesn't set out measures of success. And I think that it really could stand going back for a rewrite that is much more specific to being a pilot and establishing why we're doing it. I don't know that we've even established what the demand is for these racks or who the demanders are. Are these racks for people who live in the neighborhood, live in the city, live in Maryland, live in Australia? I mean, I don't know. I would encourage us to look at a parallel situation, though, which is the mooring buoys, which are a very finite number of mooring buoys, and they tend to go to first come, first serve, and they're held. And they're held, and they're held, and they're held. So these racks are not something, if it's like the mooring buoys, that are going to be available to a wide public. It's going to be the people that gobble them up first, and that's where it's going to stay. And so, again, I really don't think the resolution is well constructed. I'm all for doing a test and really doing some measures, but I don't think this really gets it. But if we're going to do this, right now it says the city manager and the harbor master. I think there are others of us who have some skin in the game, and I would like to be included. Thank you. That was my brief statement.
Alderman Gay.
Thank you so much for that soliloquy. Again, please remove me as a co-sponsor. I think I was duped into believing that this was a bill promoting the use of the water for recreational purposes, and particularly for low-income communities. I find it to be doing the exact opposite, even looking at the listing and locations. I don't think it'll benefit all as it is being indicated. And to my colleague from Ward 7, who has the luxury of having a kayak, no, it's my floor. He cut me off when you were speaking. Thank you. For you to sit here and say, oh, well, this is promoting water recreation because, my neighbor has to drag his kayak down. Some people don't have kayaks. Some people can't get on the water. Some people are stuck looking at it from muddy Back Creek. That's all they have. That's their view of the water. That's their access. Promoting recreational access to the water would be going to one of those corporate businesses that, do the paddle boards or whatever in Ross's ward and saying, hey, we have this really good idea where we'd like to, promote water access. Can we get into a partnership with you all and, maybe have you all set up pop-up spots and, at places where low-income communities don't have access to the water? That's promoting recreational access to water. Having the city pay for a kayak so that people can pay $500 to store it is not promoting recreational use of the water. And so again, please remove me as a co-sponsor.
Alderman Tierney.
Hi. As we did, we struggled with this, especially at finance, but as we did with outside dining, this is the same methodology. This is enabling legislation, if you will, to have a pilot. You don't know what you don't know, so this pilot will answer all of the questions my colleague from Ward 8 was asking. And then this is specific to the way the wording reads is there's a growing demand for storage options for kayaks, paddleboards, and similar small crafts in the city of Annapolis. What?
Please.
What? I would just will say that I was responding to your concern about it not including all of that stuff. It will once we have rules and regs, once we initiate the pilot. And then this is specific to kayak use, and clearly I understand that not everybody has a kayak, but some do, and there is this issue about where to store them. That's it.
Alderman Savage, then Alderman Arnett, and then I'm going to ask the city manager a question.
Yeah, I was going to ask, I know the deputy city manager's here.
So,
I didn't know if she had anything she wanted to respond to that's been stated.
and I would say it's not going to be one pilot that fits all, I would imagine, like the kayak rack at Robert Eads Park might be tailored for Robert Eads Park, right? The kayak rack at 6th Street might be tailored linear because it's such a narrow street end. Prince George Street, I would assume, would be different. So my assumption is there'll be some variety in the pilots, but this is new as well for me. So.
And can I just state for the record that the legislation does not specify a location.
Right.
Some of the harbor master had recommendations, but the legislation itself does not specify.
Good evening, Jackie Guile, Deputy City Manager for Resilience and Sustainability. So as Alderwoman Tierney has explained again, this pilot program does not indicate a particular location. So that would, as written right now, yes, it is the decision-making as to where it's going is being delegated to the city manager's office and the harbor master to figure out where the best place would be to put it for safety reasons, for the most use. And it is, to Alderman Gay's point, not a public rack where you can rent a kayak. It is a rack set up so that people who want to store their kayaks there can store them there and use them easily, rather, have a way to easily access the water. So promoting public access to the water. But it is not a rental, which has been suggested by our Director of Parks and Recreation, Ms. Johnson. Perhaps for next year, it's not in her budget this year, to create an unmanned kayak rack system where you could rent a kayak, sort of like our electric bike and scooter system. Someone would come and put them back, but there probably would be some burden on the harbor master's office if there's stray in the water, which happens from time to time in these types of programs. Then you have made the suggestion of a pop-up, like a commercial enterprise such as Stand-Up Paddleboard, for example, where they could do pop-ups and promote paddling and expose people who otherwise don't have a kayak or never done it before to experience paddling. So those are three different things. There's a commercial groups that we already have in Annapolis and maybe do a pop-up. There is a parks sort of unmanned system, and then there's what's being proposed here, which is just storage, and we need to pick a site that makes the most sense for that pilot storage program and see how it works. If it becomes a problem, if there's theft, is there vandalism, how much time is it on the harbor master's office, on the police department to support her in her efforts, whether it's being used as we think it's going to be used, whether people are willing to pay the fee that we set for it, lots of unknowns, and that's why it's a pilot program. And all to your, I don't know if it was you, Alderwoman Tierney, but the harbor master very much supports kayaking, and she doesn't have an opinion. It's just a staff report where we are required to point out the benefits and the negative aspects of proposed
it was like glass half full and half empty, and I was looking at it half empty, and it was like, oh my God. I totally respect her opinion.
And she's pointing out the costs for the initial setup and the seasonal employees' cost as it is managed from year to year.
As she should, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You made my ears buzz, Ms. Guile, when you said that the harbor master may need some support from the Annapolis Police Department. As the public safety chair, I'm a little skittish about that concerning all that's going on in the city and our public safety issues that we have. So if that's one of the components of this
is what threw me off.
I got a slight problem. I like the concept, but if we're running into possible public safety issues where the police would have to be involved, I'm kind of not there yet.
I mentioned that because with any types of these programs, you sometimes do have theft and vandalism, and it's not a component requirement of the program. She just raised that as part of her staff report.
Well, that makes my ears perk. Thank you.
I understand.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am now in a confusion of paper. I'm not really sure. We are talking about Amendment 1, correct?
Yes.
Okay. We are talking about Amendment 1, Alderman Tierney's amendment.
Okay, and so that was just handed out, but
It's the replace resolution. If you go to the backup, you'll see a resolution that consists of 3 pages.
so, again, I printed off what I thought was Amendment 1 from the city.
Yeah, this is it.
We just brought Amendment 1 to the floor, so we'll be getting to Amendment 2.
Okay, so, but this Amendment 1 is not what I printed off as Amendment 1 from the city website earlier today. Is this a new Amendment 1?
No.
Is this what you're moving? You're moving this and this,
I'm
right?
moving
Yeah.
this. This is what I'm looking at on the screen, and I guess you printed it out for whatever reason.
You have to turn your mic on.
That matches what is on Granicus.
Okay. So in this Amendment 1, if I'm understanding, I'm looking on page 2 of Amendment 1, the resolve, under 1B, it says there is a growing demand for storage rack options. Where's the validation of that? I mean, I think that is one of the reasons why I agree to do a pilot study. I don't know, where does this information that there's a growing demand come from?
It's just, I mean,
I think that's a
I agree there is,
testable
yeah.
hypothesis. So, again,
Every street and park I have in, Ward 1, every street and park, people are asking for a place to store their kayaks. I would hope that in Eastport, people are asking the same thing. Where do I store my kayak? Where do they store them?
at their house. And they wheel them down. Or they drive them down on the top of their vehicle, drop them in the water and go find a place to park. I really honestly can say I have not had one in my now 17-plus years as alderman in the ward, had one request for storage at the end of street in parks for paddle boards or kayaks, not one. So that's why, I'm in favor of doing a pilot, and I think we ought to test some of these assertions, but I'm not sure the demand is the same in every ward, nor the situations. I'll borrow from my colleague from Ward 3. All wards are different, and they have different needs and so forth. I was interested in, I believe it was you, Alderman Savage, or maybe it was you, Mayor, that said it's not one size fits all. So we're going to do a pilot test at one location and glean all the information we need to glean for all the other locations? I don't think so. It's why I'm really having a problem with this being properly formed and having a strong foundation as a pilot test. And I would really like to see a lot more, possibly from the city manager, about what it is we're testing and what our measures of success are. And are we looking at variables across the cities, street and parks, those kinds of things. And I do think we ought to at least be involving the waterside alderpersons, the 4 wards that have street and parks. So when we get to it, I'll move my amendment too. But I really am very uncomfortable about the language here and the vagueness. It feels like, for me, writing a blank check. Go do a study, and whatever you decide, that's what we'll do.
Thank you. I do have a double kayak we can go out on together, Ross. We can get the city TV station.
I have my own double kayak. And I stored it at the end of my street.
Be a good video. Alderman Finlayson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'm not sure whether my questions are appropriate. This you know, I'm sitting in the audience, and I suspect other folks who are watching are a tad bit confused about what we're talking about. And is this the replacement, the substitute resolution? What I heard from Alderwoman Tierney was that she had an ordinance, and this was the substitute for the ordinance. But I think this is the substitute for the resolution. That's my first question.
Alderman Tierney?
This is the resolution that is in lieu of the ordinance.
So it's not a substitute for the ordinance, but there was a previous resolution, and this is the new resolution.
Correct. Remember before we had, well, it came to us at committee, there was an ordinance and a matching resolution. And so, right, and so now those are gone, and this is the replacement resolution, which is the enabling legislation to implement a pilot program. It was overkill before because we wrote this ordinance, and it's like, why are we making a law when we don't know what we're doing? So it's a resolution now.
Thank you. I just wanted to be clear on that to begin with.
Okay.
I was there, physically present, when the harbor master spoke to this piece of legislation. And I walked away with the specific impression that she was not thrilled with it at all. And so I would hope that her voice is the voice that we follow with the most not sincerity, but seriousness, because this is her business. She had not indicated that she received an outpouring of requests for kayak storage. But we have this resolution. What is the status of kayaks at Truxton Park? Do we know?
There are no kayak racks at Truxton Park.
So maybe that is an ideal location if people are just looking for a place to store their kayak, or do they really just want some place that's close to their homes? I mean, we don't know the answer, or maybe Alderwoman Tierney does know the answer to that question. Is Truxton Park a viable choice?
I don't know who you're asking. I don't think my residents should decide what we're doing. So I don't know the answer to that.
I think the residents are looking for convenience to where they live. So if it's Eastport or if it's Ward 1 on, College Creek, or Ward 1 on Spa Creek, it's variable.
Yeah.
Right?
Can I just add, though, that ideally, I forget where it was, but what I envisioned this would do if it was successful is that you would distribute these kayak racks, wherever, because the concern now is if you mention, and right now, Eric isn't here, but we're going through and we're improving bulkheads on street and parks and all that, and the question of adding a kayak rack always seems to come up, and people say, no, I don't want all those cars and all those people visiting, and the thought is, wow, if we had, a simple kayak rack at these street end parks, then not everybody would go to the same place. That's the concern of putting it in one place, whether it be Truxton or whatever. It would attract a lot of cars and a lot of traffic. The one objective or secondary objective of this legislation was sort of distribute that, have smaller kayak racks at these parks, wherever they may be. Does that make sense? So it wouldn't be this traffic congestion like you have at the, at whatever that street is.
So would there be an objection to giving the aldermen for the respective wards an opportunity to weigh in on a kayak rack being installed in one of their street end parks?
Absolutely.
No objection. I'm sure the city manager will be consulting with each individual council member on their specific needs.
Okay. Well, lastly, I'd just like to say Alderman Gay makes an excellent point. I had been swayed kind of away from the idea after hearing from our harbor master, but he is making an excellent point about who the target is. And I think that's pretty clear. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I just want to put things in a little bit of perspective, hopefully. If you look at the fiscal impact note, we're talking about $7,500. $7,500. I think we're kind of overthinking this a bit. We have a request from a colleague who is trying to create a pilot, a test based on input she's received from her constituents. I think that's a very reasonable thing for her to do and for us to support. If we have an alternative, such as, providing a kayak share program, let's do that too. More the merrier, but don't use your what ifs or your hopes to kill a worthwhile effort from our colleague. Bring forth another proposal and I'll support that. I think a lot of us will. But don't kill somebody's good faith effort to respond to constituents when you're talking about $7,500.
Thank you. Any other comments? Sorry, I'm afraid it's not a public hearing, but you can approach your council member with your input, but on a resolution, it's not for a public hearing. Sorry.
This is final vote.
Huh?
Will this be a final vote, though?
Well, I think we've got an amendment on the floor, and I would like the Alderman Tierney to just explain to me the big differences between what is on the floor and what you're replacing it with. I don't, if you can summarize that or not, no?
No, there was nothing previously on the floor to vote on. This is just a replacement bill.
Okay.
It's a replacement bill. It's a different,
And the sticking point
it's
seems
just
to be
very simple
the fee
to-
structure is the problem for a lot of people, right? Is
There
it?
was a first reader vote on the resolution, was there not? No?
Right?
Yeah. So
this is an
there
amendment to
should be
the first reader, right? Is that right?
The way, Amendment 1 is, it says it right here, Amendment 1 is a substitute amendment replacing the entire text of R 47-23 with a new resolution that encompasses all requirements in one resolution, eliminating the need for any code changes via an ordinance. So this was the method to do that, to just introduce it, because we had both if you remember, there was an ordinance and respective resolution together. So that's not the way to go here, so we just put it in a resolution, which is, there's no changes per se. This is just a better way of implementing a pilot program. 3 pages. It's in front of you.
Yep.
This is
Okay.
it. There's nothing changing from anything before that we've been on the floor.
So we'll just see where the votes are, shall we?
It's not a floor amendment, if you will. It's confused people when they saw it on their desk. Dais.
Okay, so I'm just going to vote on it. Ready? So there's an amendment on the floor, replaces the existing resolution in full. All those in favour, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
So let's do a roll call, please.
Yes. Mayor Buckley?
Aye.
Alderwoman O'Neill? Aye. Alderman Kendall Charles?
Nay.
Alderman Finlayson?
Nay.
Alderman Shannon Meyer?
Aye.
Alderman Gay? No. Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
No.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye.
It passes 5-4.
Okay. Motion passes. Alderman Arnett?
I would like to propose Arnett Amendment number 2.
Okay.
Second.
It's consistent with the appeal that I made and discussing the resolution itself, which is that we involve the alderpersons involved in this pilot study, wherever it or they should be decided upon. So the city manager shall consult with the city council representative of the ward where the pilot project will be installed before final location.
Okay, you've got a motion and a second on that. Alderman Pindell-Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to reiterate my concern concerning involving public safety in this matter. I'm really concerned about that based on what I heard from Ms. Guile.
So that we can get some paddle police out there, you think? Okay, no worries. So we have a motion and a second on that. Any other discussion on that amendment? Alderman Shannemeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With all due respect to my colleague, based on his email blast out earlier, it does seem like this amendment is going to try to be used to block these programs, which I think kind of moots the point of the pilot, but you all can come up to your own opinion on that.
Will we say something?
You asked
decision. I think within that, there should be a requirement that the location serve a diverse population of the individual's ward, wherever this is chosen. I do not, I think that to the point of the alderman from Ward 8, I think that whoever makes the decision on where they place these paddle racks, as small as it may seem, it makes a significant difference in how surrounding communities are viewed and how people feel the city views them, and especially when it comes to water access and trying to be equitable in promoting the recreational use of our water. So I don't know how that language can be added in. Maybe I'll throw in an amendment. I think this should be sent back, obviously, because there's so many various concerns, but I don't know, maybe you can throw that in somewhere.
I couldn't catch what the amendment to the amendment was.
I think that at the end of D, where you say the city manager shall consult with the city council representative of the ward where the pilot project will be installed before the final location decision. Within that, there should be some requirement either from the city manager or from the council representative that's being consulted that they keep in mind or try to promote equity within the within the paddle location, etc., making sure that it serves a diverse community, making sure that, you know, if it's on Prince George's Street, that, you know, they feel comfortable with somebody looking like me walking down the street and possibly, and I don't want to hear the snods because that is a thought. You have to think about these things, you know. I do. I mean, because if it goes there or if it goes on one of the locations that the harbor master has suggested, it's not diverse. And so I think that should be added to D in some way, shape, or form.
I'm accepting it as a friendly amendment, but I still can't quite figure out what the amendment is. Do you have specific words?
Yeah, I can put together language. Insert I guess after, where the pilot project will be installed before the final location decision, I guess we include the city manager or the city council representative who's being consulted. I don't know. Mr. City Attorney, I have a question. If you could help me put together language here to put this amendment on the floor. Obviously, I don't want to just say the city council rep or the city manager promote equity and water access, because that doesn't really, you know, solve the problem. So how would I rephrase that so that the city manager or the city council representative that's being consulted would keep that in mind?
Well, the city manager has his hand up. Maybe he has an idea for Mr. City Manager. Yeah.
Michael Malinoff, City Manager. I don't have a copy of the amendment, wasn't included, but I will say that what you're saying, Alderman Gay, makes perfect sense to me. And I think the language you just used is really what's going to be located, and we get that. And that can be how you write it and how we look at implementing it, which Jeremy's way, and it's a big issue. So I think we understand exactly that we would use an equity lens in working with the council person on the location of the test racks would be sufficient. And through my office with Ms. Guile and the harbor master, we'll work closely with you.
I would like to add to that, we also have, as you know, the Public Water Access Plan has been worked on for about a year now, and this Wednesday we have a work session with Department of Transportation and Park Service and city staff to go over that draft Public Access Plan. That plan looks at all our current public access points and other points we could have and identifies the current uses and other uses that could be there. And as part of that process, there was several surveys done and stakeholder groups convened to talk about what uses people wanted at those street end parks. So that will help inform the decision about where there is a demand and where they could be safely built, the kayak paddleboard racks, paddlecraft racks, and where it makes the most sense to put them in the first place. So we won't be, obviously, then we could consult with the ward representative where we're considering putting those racks.
So Alderman Gay, we have a vast public out there watching this, and they have offered an end to the sentence.
I like what I like what is proposed.
What do you want to state it for us?
So at the end, the location of the decision, giving consideration to equity and diversity in community usage. Does that work for you?
I like that, except for if you don't mind, I would propose it as this. At the end of D, it says the city manager shall consult with the city council representatives of the ward where the pilot project will be installed before the final location decision. I would just add consideration must be included for equity and diversity in community usage.
I'm very happy to accept that as a friendly amendment.
Thank you. And then I'm just going to go to Alderman O'Neill and then Alderman Finlayson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What I would propose to offer is Northwest Street in my ward is a great location to put some kayak racks to see how the pilot project goes. I have had many residents in my ward, and specifically in the Clay Street area, that have asked about additional waterfront access. Northwest Street is an underutilized waterfront street end park, technically, that would involve all of the equity and issues that are coming about. There's plenty of space for probably 8 to 10. A rack that would hold 8 to 10 kayaks would be a great pilot program. I'd also like to add in a quick search for commercial kayak racks. There are some to be found for less than $4,500. So we might be able to do 2 pilots coinciding together in 2 different parts of the city.
Let's do 10.
Thank you. Alderman Finlayson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going to propose the language, but I think the language that has already been proposed is more than sufficient. Thank you.
Okay. Let's take a vote on it. All those in favor of amendment number 2, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No.
Roll call.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley,
Aye.
Alderman O'Neill,
Aye.
Alderman Kendall Charles,
No.
Alderman Finlayson,
Aye.
Alderman Shannon Meyer,
No.
Alderman Gay,
Aye.
Alderman Savage,
No.
Alderman Arnett,
Aye.
Alderman Tierney.
Aye.
It passes 6-3.
Yep.
That is, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Has amended on second reader.
Yep, just trying to get through to it,
She just
sorry.
calls them
Need a motion
options,
to
you know, they're not,
vote on it
she
as
doesn't even
amended?
list Prince
Yep,
George.
could I get a motion to vote on as amended on R47-23?
So moved. Second.
Okay, all those in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Thank you.
Abstain.
Is there a motion to vote on whether the amendments are substantive? All right, is there a motion, is this on second reader now, this one? Is there a motion to adopt R47-23 as amended on second reader?
So moved.
Yeah,
Yeah, so moved.
So moved.
so moved in a second. Roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley,
Aye.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Aye.
Alderwoman Kendall Charles,
No.
Alderwoman Finlayson,
Aye.
Alderman Shannon Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Gay,
Aye.
Alderman Savage,
Aye.
Alderman Arnett,
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney.
Aye.
That resolution passes.
Right, Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
The agenda is complete, Mr. Mayor.
All right, is there anything else for good order? Alderwoman O'Neill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I would like to say a special thanks to the residents of the city of Annapolis. Our Food Friday program was able to donate turkeys and/or gift cards for turkeys to 220 families in the city of Annapolis. There was a large donor, gentleman by the name of Ronaldo, who came through with more than 45 turkeys. I believe it was closer to 65, but I'm not positive on that one, for our city residents. And so everybody was able to have a nice turkey dinner due to the kindness of our residents. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Alderman Gay, then Alderman Pindell Charles, and Alderman Annette.
No, just really quickly piggybacking off of what Carmen said, I think my residents were able to just benefit so much this holiday season. Donna Johnson obviously hosted a Thanksgiving dinner. Lavelle with Small City Big Dreams handed out turkeys all weekend long. Deasia Conti hosted, I believe at the Stanton Center, a dinner for Thanksgiving as well. And so, everybody was just pitching in and, making sure that people were fed. And so that's important.
Thank you. Alderman Pindell Charles.
I think Alderwoman O'Neill's talking about Mr. Ronaldo Brown, who's one of Alderwoman Finlayson's residents.
Thank you. Alderman Annette and
Thank you, Mr.
Attorney.
Mayor. I'm looking forward to the report on the trip to the Netherlands. I'm sorry I couldn't attend, but I do want to report to the public that I'm just amazed at the zeal and fervor that my colleagues have come back with, and many have said that it exceeded their expectation. I am a firm believer that it's important for city council members to get exposure to other ideas, and that we all residents benefit from that. So I look forward to seeing the report from all of you.
Thank you. Alderman Attorney.
Two things real quick. I'm happy to have you all back. And second, safely. Yeah. And second is just a shout out, because some people don't realize all the stuff they do to make the city, fun, and is to Downtown Annapolis Partnership. You could see the work that went into last night for children that came in from outside the city. Our garage was somewhat full, and Santa came, and the police and the fire department. They gave us a hook and ladder truck and another truck, and the fire and the police department to bring Santa here safely, and it was enjoyed by all. So shout out to Downtown Annapolis Partnership.
And I'm just going to reiterate what Alderman Arnett said. We were overwhelmed, and it's made us rethink a lot of things that trip. I think and there's nothing like experiencing it firsthand. My colleagues get paid, what, $15,000 a year? You barely get any compensation for all the amazing amount of work you do. And so you worked like crazy on that trip, but it really was transformative. So thank you all. Could I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
They can